Hello, I'm Kim Sauer, Apex 2018. I'm joined by Jack Patty from Ventec International Group and Craig Arcuri from the Comic Group. Now, I've been wandering the streets or the aisles of Apex, and we're here in San Diego. There's a lot of buzz going around, a lot of positivity about the industry here in the US. I'm interested to find out from you how you're seeing the industry at the moment and the development of it. So if I could start with you, Jack.
Sure. I mean, from our perspective, going back to considering 2017, it's a really robust industry right now. And we're seeing, lots of growth. We're seeing, around here, around the show, I'm just seeing what I think is a lot of excitement about the industry, people buying equipment. We haven't seen that in a long time. So people are reinvesting into their facilities, which, a lot of them sorely need. So there's a lot of money being spent right now. And that's a good indication that they believe in the business and the industry.
Mm-hmm. That's something that you're observing as well?
Well, dovetailing off of that, so last year was, I think, a moderately strong year. And without taking a political position, which could be dangerous, the tax changes in terms of accelerated depreciation, and the point that you just touched on with a lot of factories held off on investments. And you can get away with that for a little while, but eventually you have to replace equipment because either it becomes obsolete or the technology that you're using that equipment to build is becoming so complex that equipment can't build it anymore. And so I think this is going to be a great year for equipment suppliers. I think speaking from one of the guys who used to be in the trenches in manufacturing, financing is always a problem. We generally don't have a ton of cash laying around in manufacturing companies. It's a low margin business. So what we need to happen at the same time is access to capital. So leases, loans, those kinds of things. And I think the industry is going to respond, especially this year, because those companies want to make money as well. So from that perspective, I think I agree, it's going to be a strong year. I think especially for the equipment suppliers, and I see that wandering the halls here at Apex. I overheard one group making a deal on the spot for a machine that was on the show floor, and you hear about that, you see signs that say sold at Apex,
yeah.
But you see those less and less, and I heard a couple of deals happening, so that's good. And
I have a question for you. One thing we're seeing on the, we're a laminate supplier serving the board manufacturers, and we're seeing investment into the industry where investment companies are coming in and buying PCB companies, and they're creating a group where you might have had, one company that was 10 million and 120, and cobbling these companies together, and you've got a group that's 40, 50, 60 million. So we're actually, we saw that happen twice last year. So we're seeing, from my point of view, it seems like there is money coming into the industry, or money available. So.
Yeah, I often wondered from the fabrication perspective, it seemed like we had a real consolidation 2008.
No question.
And I think we over-consolidated. So, we got what we asked for, which is a lot less suppliers. And then as things picked up, lead times are getting pushed out. I'm sure the same thing happened with material suppliers. I think the TTM and VIA deal, I think that reawakened everybody to we need to have some scope and some mass. And I think
one of the things it did do from an OEM perspective is there were companies that had dual source with
right.
the TTM and VIA.
Right.
And
so it opened up.
Merged, so it really benefited our business because that next tier was something that we were heavily involved in. So we saw that really helping us quite a bit.
One of the things I was going to mention that happens in parallel, which is somewhat counterintuitive, but I think it's the world we live in today. We're used to grabbing a phone, getting an Uber for $12 to get across town. So customers are looking for, the same great quality, spectacular service, but better value. But so they're always driving. The run up to 2008 before the meltdown, people's idea about pricing was if you give me great quality and the right delivery, I'm okay with a higher price. And what I sense kind of in the trenches is I need those things, but I still want a really good price. Mm-hmm. And so there's always margin pressure, at least from an EMS perspective. And so you got to find better ways to do things, more efficient ways to do that. That whole ecosystem drives efficiency. But I mean, overall, very positive. I think it's going to be, I think it's going to be a good year for equipment suppliers, for manufacturing companies, for people who supply those industries with raw materials, and it's clear that you can feel that vibe walking here through Apex.
On the board side, we're definitely seeing a bit of onshoring, some work coming back from China, and there are active captive PCB companies that are building for their own products, and I know of a couple projects that are in the works of other OEMs that are deciding that they're actually going to build a board shop to manage their own.
Wow!
And if you can do it, if you can automate it enough, you can compete with China, and the ROI is not that bad. So we're seeing some of that, and I think it bodes very well for the future. I mean, let's face it, everything, but most things are designed in the West, and I think it's really been excellent for our industry.
Right.
And talk about industries. So let's look at some of the segments. Has there been any shift, any change in the type of industry that have been quite dominant on the US market? And who are the stars on the market?
I mean, market segment, meaning like mil-aero?
Yeah, automotive, mil-aero. Are there any rising stars? Any particularly strong segments that you're seeing particularly growth?
Definitely the mil-aero segment, under the current political climate is extremely strong. The other area where we had massive growth last year was in thermal management materials, and this is whether it's LED lighting, but what is really driving it is Detroit. And it's the electric vehicles. It's not only electric vehicles, but say the electric mobility market, whether it's a golf cart, anything like that. And it seems to me on the electric vehicle market that there's a lot of IP to that, and I think they're going to want to keep some of this IP domestically. So again, where I spent a lot of time the last year in Detroit seeing the reinvestment, engineering companies coming in, all of that kind of stuff, and they're all going to be looking for prototype boards, all of those things. So I think Detroit is ready to explode for business right now. I mean, I've been in this business since 1989, and this is the best I've felt in a really long time about the future.
So it might be time to go invest in real estate in Detroit. You might have just given everybody a great tip.
The secret, absolutely.
Pick up a whole block for 10,000.
to dovetail with that, Internet of Things, which is a double-edged sword for manufacturing because the boards are really small, the content's really small, and we like to build big things that we can charge a lot of money for. But the connecting of everything to the internet. From refrigerators to cars to you name it, and so that drives just tons of devices that are being built. And likewise, there's I wouldn't say it a tidal wave, but I'd say maybe a 1 or 2 foot tsunami of slow-moving tsunami of stuff coming back from Asia that's being built here. And part of that is not just IP. Part of that is speed. So the market dynamics in Silicon Valley, you can do a prototype and 3 months later find it in Fry's Electronics or Best Buy in production. And when they hit it big, of course they're probably going to build it in China, but from zero to there, you're only talking about a few weeks and months. And so I think the IoT segment in general is really very active and will continue to be active. And the 1 or 2 foot tsunami coming back from Asia is much based on speed in that area, just responsiveness to the market. And what the market is causing the driving, as it is to traditional kind of IP concerns. In fact, on the IoT side, the IP is almost reversed. People understand that's going to get potentially copied very quickly, but it's moving so quickly that by the time it gets copied, the new version is better anyway. So
with all of that growth that we're seeing and the investments that we touched upon, also come surely from an operational point of view, some challenges that you need to fulfill to be able to sustain and build upon that success and that growth. What are you seeing from running your company point of view as to what you need in order to, and apart from machines and any type of real estate, are there any particular areas that need addressing to be able to continue this success?
I think from our position, our situation, we've had a bunch of open positions that we can't fill. We just, there's just not, for whatever reason, in the past, in the recent past, it has not attracted young talent to our industry. I've got kids that are 27, 23, they want to be in a Google type office, they don't want to be in a manufacturing environment. And that's what we're facing. So we can't find people to fill the open positions. So we're looking, do we try to create from within, or the people that we can promote because it's a technical sale? Do we really invest in training? Do we go out and we hire college graduates and take the risk of training them? 6 months of training, in 7 months they decide that this isn't for them. So it is a serious challenge. And as I walk around the show and I talk to people, and we're in circuit board shops every day, and they have the same problem. I say, can you help me find somebody? He's like, sure, but can you help me find somebody too? So it's just the lack of talent is, you can't underestimate that, because that is a serious problem right now.
Here, absolutely what he said times 10. That and also for companies that aren't what I call, don't have the panache right now, Tesla, Google, who doesn't want to work at Tesla and change the world? Who doesn't want to work at SpaceX or the Boring Company? Who doesn't want to go work? I want to go work for Elon Musk. I'm available, by the way. So when you're trying to compete with that,
you could be the barista for all the other kids, right?
I wash cars. I'm fine with washing cars. So the competition is then even stronger, because you're competing against companies that are doing really wonderful things, that are very name brand, and manufacturing laminates, electronic manufacturing. That doesn't have the factor, the cool factor, as much of a cool factor. And then the other side of it is the data. As you know, we've talked in the past, data. So everybody, big data, factory 4.0, industry 4.0, but it's real. The speed at which customers push you to do things, you cannot rely on pencil and paper or the way we always used to do it. So you have to collect a lot of data. Companies now have to invest money in software people. Traditional companies who built circuit boards or maybe built laminate, have data groups that are collecting data on the process of building it, quality, who's buying it.
Internet security.
Right, all of that stuff. So we're now all becoming data companies, and many of the traditional manufacturing companies are kind of getting pulled into that, kicking and screaming. Why do I have to have a software guy when you really need to have some? So collecting data, knowing what to do with that, finding those needles in the haystack of data, and then being transparent with the customer. My personal opinion is manufacturing companies of any ilk, if they don't recognize in the next decade that they are really just a data company and they happen to build stuff, those are the dinosaurs. Those are the people that will get Ubered out of existence before long. So hiring for sure is also big.
For us, it's a little bit different. It's not so much data, but it's supply chain. For us, what really drives our business is supply chain, because effectively, we're a wholly owned subsidiary of Ventec, which manufactures in Suzhou, China, but effectively I'm a distributor here, and I have to plan 3 months in advance. So that whole key of that supply chain, if I don't have it on the shelf, I don't have a sale. So that planning, we often say that we're competing against other people's supply chain, not always their products, but so it's with the nature of the quick turn business. Almost every single order that we take, we ship same day. Mm-hmm. If not, it's the next day. Mm-hmm. And if I don't do it, my competitor will.
So you pretty much have to learn how to predict the future very accurately.
Getting back to your point, we are using data to do that. We're using historic data. We have an ERP system that works really well, helping us predict what we're going to need. So you're right. It is driven by data for sure. But that data drives our supply chain to make sure that we have product on the shelf.
So just to round it off on On a note, looking a little bit into the future, always difficult to predict, but where do you see this as a long-term trend, a medium-term trend? Where do you see the market going, the US market going?
For me, for the particular products that we're really interested in, which is the mill aero and the thermal management space, whether it's in particular the automobile situation, I think it looks really robust. There's no reason for me to be down on the next 5 years of what I see. So,
yeah, I concur at all levels, both from equipment suppliers, manufacturers in the trenches, large manufacturers, people throughout the supply chain. I'm very bullish on the next 5, and I'd be so bold as to say I think the next 5 to 10 years, where maybe golden age is a bit strong, but I think all across the board. I mean, you don't just have automotive blowing up with electric cars. You've got automotive and all the crazy things happening there, AI and all the things happening, IoT and mill aero, all across the spectrum. So I think I concur completely. The next 5 years, get some real estate in Detroit, and I think things are going to continue to improve. And as long as nothing bad happens in the Koreas or some geopolitical issue that takes us off the rails, I think we got a good run going that's going to continue.
Excellent. Craig, Jack, thank you very much.
My pleasure. Thank you. Nice to be here.